Hey guys, welcome to Nomads with a Purpose. I'm Gabi.
I'm Isabelle, and for the past 6 years we have been traveling the world with our family of 7, experiencing life, but most importantly, we are incredibly passionate about pursuing our highest selves and becoming young entrepreneurs.
Here at Nomads with Purpose, Isabelle and I are on a mission to help you defy the norm by overcoming adversity, finding your true sense of confidence, self-worth, and discovering your purpose. So in today's video, we want to talk about what the #1 question is that people ask us when they find out that we've been living in an RV for 6 years, for our entire teenage life. And so the first question that people always ask us is actually not expected, and for us, we actually get kind of annoyed by this question, but we want to share with you why that is and why it's the most common question that people have and break down the answer to that question and also why it's not the best question to be asking yourself if you're contemplating living in an RV with teens, or if you're a teen watching this, why RV living is pretty awesome. And so, do you want to share with them what that first question is?
So you'd expect the first thing that people say when they find out that you're a teen living in an RV, you'd expect that they maybe ask, oh, what is it like? What do you love about it? What have you experienced? Have you done any amazing hikes? That's so awesome.
What about your education? That's always, it's not that though.
Yeah, but the first question people always ask with horror on their faces, but what about friends? Oh my God!
Oh my gosh, you're socially awkward and you're not gonna fit in anywhere. Well, yeah. Maybe that's true, but we're going to break down what exactly that question is stemming from and the answers that we have to that question. So initially, people think of this question as a pretty frank and honest question, but what about friends? Now the thing is, on the surface level, on the conscious level, it makes sense. However, that question is stemming from a really deep subconscious programming that is not necessarily aligned with our best interests or aligned with our highest selves, which is what we're so passionate about. And so on a conscious level, people think of it as I have some really great friends from high school, or friends can be really meaningful. Connections are important, and we would never disagree with that. In fact, we think connection with other individuals on a deep level and really getting to know people and express yourself is one of the most important things, don't you think?
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, we don't think that friends are a bad thing, but it's the stigma behind the question that is a little bit annoying, and because it comes from, we think about our friends in high school and that, oh, you went to homecoming, you went to prom, and we're missing out on all that. But the thing is that what you've learned with RV living is that while we appreciate friends and we definitely want to have friends and those close connections, it's that in high school you're at a time where you are so influenced by peers, and having friends is all about having someone who you can be your authentic self with and connect with about your values. But as a high schooler, you're kind of going through a phase where you're looking at, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing, right? And you're just thinking, how can I be more like them to have friends? So it's a reversed version of what you think friends should be.
And so it's basically like the assumption that, well, if you go to high school, you'll have friends and all friends are good. Now, that's a blanket statement. Some friends are really good, but going to high school and getting those friends there is not necessarily going to correlate exactly. So let's break down what the subconscious belief that question is stemming from. Now you have to understand that 95%, that's a lot of everything that goes on in our brain is subconscious. So we don't know what's happening. We don't know exactly what that, to our logical mind, we think the question, but what about friends, makes sense. But it's coming 95% from a subconscious belief system, and our subconscious belief systems are primarily fear and falsehood. It's not true. It usually comes from our outside influence of whatever we were trained to believe in our young childhood life. And so the first subconscious programming that leads us to think this question is that we are still living in a program that validation equates to happiness. And when people project that onto their kids, or if you're a kid who lives in that and thinks that they need to have friends, it's because you haven't escaped the subconscious belief system that validation equals happiness, validation equals fulfillment. The truth is, validation is a synthetic form of fulfillment. It's almost like the dopamine rush as opposed to a serotonin stabilizing feeling of fulfillment and happiness.
We don't notice this because, and the thing that happens is that over the years, the reason we have this is because we're growing up in a society and everything where you're taught to go to school and you're taught to get the answers right and get A pluses and be with the system and succeed, and that equals that you're good. Instead, it needs to be changed to, we don't value the unique ideas anymore. We're not being allowed to express our own individuality and express our creativity. That's no longer valued. So it's a system that's fighting against you.
Definitely, and we talk about chakras a lot, and we have a whole course on how to balance your chakras, and so you can clear these subconscious beliefs. But the subconscious belief that validation equals life or validation equals happiness, validation is important, is coming from a sacral chakra blockage. And sacral chakra blockages happen when we don't feel like we're able to vulnerably express ourselves when we're young, and that usually looks like the form of creativity or verbal expression of what we're passionate about. And possibly when you're a kid, that was shut down and you didn't think that you could fully express who you really were at your core.
Yeah, so the second subconscious belief that we often face is also FOMO, fear of missing out. The thing is, the reason that the question, what about friends, is so common is that people tend to think of high school as this important time in their life where they were the happiest, where they were the most free but also the most childish, where they got to just be with their friends, hang out, and not have to be worried about what they're doing with their future. It's like this scarcity of joy mindset. And so when we get that question of what about friends, it's because they're assuming, oh my gosh, if you didn't go to high school, then how are you finding joy? When really there's so much outside of high school in finding friends. Over the past 5 years, we've experienced so much in just 1 year alone that I feel like it's made up for so much. And other than that, you're meeting people outside of high school. It's just it's a different kind of people. Yeah. So you're on the trail when we're hiking every day, we're backpacking, you're talking to cool people who are camping next to you, you meet cool people at the crag, you connect with them. It's such a different experience. And so that is a big subconscious belief that people have to get over.
I think the subconscious belief, because a lot of people as adults don't get to live particularly joyful lives. And say you do live in an RV, a lot of people don't necessarily find joy from simply RV living. And this could go a step further, and we could say, well, maybe you're not finding enough gratitude in your present moment, because you could find true joy doing nothing. That's like the whole Buddhist mindset of you don't need anything to create your joy, you can create joy from within. But on a simpler level, a lot of times we don't even do the things that make us feel joy, and so we have attached a memory that high school is the only time in our life that we get to feel joy, and after that it's only occasional and it's rare. And that's a subconscious belief pattern you have to clear, because it really holds you back from tapping into all the other chakras, all the other aspects of life that make you fulfilled, like purpose and creativity and expression and trust and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why RV life is so amazing, or at least it's been so amazing for me personally, and why I think it's so important is because when we moved into an RV, we both literally and metaphorically weeded out everything that wasn't necessary, and it left you with such a space of, 1, oh my gosh, I can do anything with my time right now, and 2, I've always had this time, and 3, wow, I need so little to be happy. And so as a teen, that was really powerful to move into an RV, because it made me realize that I had all the time in the world to do anything I wanted, and that I just had to seek it out.
Now, and granted, we're saying this from a place of experiencing this transition ourselves. So when we first moved into the RV and I was 14, I was a freshman in high school, and I was absolutely that person who was like, just because I'm taking the first year off of high school doesn't mean I'm not going to go to high school. I'll still go because I still assumed that I needed to. Or not needed to like responsibility I needed to, but I needed to, it was an important part of getting my validation and getting my happiness, and it would happen. But over the transition of the first year especially, actually after the first 6 months, I experienced this big transformation of realizing that, there's a lot more to life than just having friends. And because I had a lot of friends before that, and I had a lot of meaningful friendships, best friends, but the fulfillment that I was finding from doing things that gave me joy on the road, such as sports and being in nature. I mean, I didn't even love nature before. I learned to love nature, and that gave me fulfillment. And so then now, from our understanding of subconscious programmings and from our understandings of the human psyche and all that sort of fun stuff, we can see this transition from a zoomed out perspective. But when you're in it, it feels like it's important. But it's all a matter of learning what gives you fulfillment outside of that belief system, and two, of clearing that belief system and understanding that it's just a belief system. It acts from fear and falsehood, like I said, and it's not true. And just because our automatic instinct is to go to that program and run that cycle, it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. And that's why this of overcoming subconscious programmings is so important. And if you can just figure this one out, especially, or help your teens work through it, if you're a parent watching this, it's going to change them so much. I mean, I'm a kids mindfulness coach. That's what my whole purpose is right now. And it's all about undoing that subconscious programming, because once you can become aware of, oh, this isn't my belief.
Pre-programming it right. Like if you can help your kids when they're younger, then you can pre-program them to be better, more happy in the future, rather than have this programming that sets us up to be unhappy.
Yeah, so undoing, making sure preventing programming and undoing any is going to change a lot.
So it's not, we want to share some tangible tips on how do you actually apply this if you're, one, considering living in an RV with your teenagers, two, you're a teenager, you live in an RV, or your parents want to move into an RV, or three, you already do all of it. You already do that. And so you can't really just approach yourself or approach your teenager and be like, oh, okay, what are your subconscious beliefs?
Right? Yeah,
It's subconscious. It doesn't work like that. So I like to think of it as the metaphor as you're at a water park, right? And teenagers, you want to go down the water slides, and everyone's in line on this one water slide, and this one line is to go down this one water slide, and that one water slide is high school, right? And of course, the average person is going to look at the line and be like, look how many people are in line. It must be a really fun water slide. So the key is to make your life a water slide when you live in an RV, okay? Because by living in an RV, you're right, they do not get to go down that water slide. But you have to understand that there are other water slides at the water park, okay?
Yeah, and it's like, so you're at the top of the water slide, and there's 3 different water slides to choose from. And everyone's in line for the one called Drop of Doom that looks so scary, and everyone says is the intense one that you must do, that you completely forget about the 2 others that are right there in front of you, because you're like, oh, well, there's everyone in line for these 2. Those ones must be broken.
They must be
not
boring. Nobody likes them.
Exactly.
Or maybe they're too scary. And
when really it's just that one person get online for the Drop of Doom one, and then more and more and more people do that one. Just because it's the popular path does not mean it's always the right one.
Yes. Now the key is, where do you find the other water slide? You might be thinking, Gabby, I don't see the other water slide. The water slide that everyone goes down, it's right there. I can physically see it in my reality with my own eyes. But the other water slide, it's kind of invisible, or it's hidden, and you have to actually be looking for it to know how to get there. And that other water slide is RV living. Now, how do you actually find that water slide? We're going to give you 3 ways that you can find that water slide in your own life. Now, what is the first one?
So the first way that you can escape this whole what about friends, high school stigma is finding your passion. And that, it's like easy peasy, find your passion, whatever. It's like you can just go to the store and buy some passion.
You look at a little kid, the inner child, a child is passionate about everything. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be one tangible task, but it does help when you get older. Like if you have one task, like, oh, I know this one thing that I do makes me happy, but you can also just be passionate about life in general. Like a little kid who's just stoked about everything, just to be outside, to get to play.
Yeah, it's all about finding joy in life and opening your arsenal, expanding your arsenal of what you enjoy. So you just gotta try new things and find ways to be creative. Because like we said earlier, like we've been taught to value success or achievement over creativity and individuality. So coming back to passion and finding what makes you feel creative, what makes you feel expressive, and what makes you feel good in the creation is so important. So whether it's painting or exploring or hiking or rock climbing or even a job, finding it finding something that makes you feel passionate is super important.
So the second one is why not try out purpose? We have this stigma in our society that we don't find our purpose until we grow up. That's something for later, but it's actually the other way around, I think. I think we don't truly grow up until we find our purpose. I think it's a huge misconception that we have to wait to figure out what we love enough to make our lives work. So I think an important part is to expose yourself or to expose your teenagers to all the different possible options for careers and all the different types of themes of people's lives, and this requires a lot of self-awareness and self-study. So for us, it was really important to read a lot of different types of books on psychology and a lot of different books on, you know, different methodologies and ways to look at your life and ways to look at your life's purpose. In fact, one of our favorite books of all time is Dan Millman's
The Life You Were Born to Live. That was crazy. That was
we're
crazy.
not sisters, so they're not even related or anything. But that's, you know, exposing yourself to so many different ideas about the world and exposing yourself to different ways of looking at yourself, because when you find your purpose can fulfill any need for validation, because your purpose gives you a sense of intrinsic self-worth, intrinsic motivation, a drive to exist for something greater than yourself.
Yeah, and while it's definitely hard to say find your purpose, it's also something that's definitely attainable. Purpose isn't this, while it's so important, it's not this thing that you'll spend 300 bajillion years looking for. You just have to start, and always asking the question, helping your teens, or if you're a teen, asking the question, what do I have to offer people? You have to understand and look at your own strengths and think and actually appreciate and give yourself like a pat on the back, like, oh, I'm good at this, I am passionate about this, and I can give this to people. And just starting there and seeing how you can apply it to the world.
Yeah, and now the last one is to have some gratitude, okay? So a lot of people look at RV living, or especially teenagers, they think that, oh, I have to live in an RV with my family. And if you watched our other video on the truth about 9 things that are true about RV living as teenagers, that me and Isabelle and our brother did together, we talked about this, that we have this selfish or ungrateful mindset of, I don't want to share my space, I don't want to share my time, I want what I want to go to school and I want to have friends. Well, look, we have actually been fortunate enough, and we're so grateful that we've gotten to experience many different third world countries in our life before you know, all the lockdowns and stuff happened. And I think that actually visiting a third world country was probably the most meaningful lesson and experience I've had in my life to set me up for success in the future. Because, you know, we've been to Bali, and we went not to necessarily touristy area of Bali, but to a poor area of Bali. And I remember being so shocked and jaw-dropping shock that people do not have opportunity in their life. And if you are living in an RV, that alone is an amazing opportunity in your life, and you should be extremely grateful for, one, the opportunity to live with so much joy, so much freedom, and so much connection to your family. It's like if you're a teenager, you assume that you're living with your family, and that's something to be grateful for.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if you've heard this phrase before, but we're kind of like rabbits, and we attach to every time we see a stick rather than the carrot. We attach to the negative rather than the positive, and that's something I did personally, I have to say, when I moved to an RV, is that I naturally was thinking about all the sticks that I was seeing and all the carrots that I was losing. I was saying, oh, I don't have this anymore. I don't have this. I don't get this. When really, I didn't even pay attention to all the new things that were being available to me. I now had freedom. I was now in nature. I was now surrounded by my family. All these good things. So training your brain and just starting in the simplest way possible of writing, even like a gratitude journal. Write one thing a day that you're grateful for, and being real about what you actually have. That's going to change the game so much, because once you can practice gratitude, one, it changes how your brain functions, and it changes how you can show up to life, and it opens your heart up to experience both the passion, find more passion, and live with more purpose. They all affect each other.
And gratitude's so important. It has so many beneficial things, and one of them is that it actually increases your cognitive function, and you can combine number 2 and number 3 of what we just said, gratitude and purpose. If you read in exposing yourself to different ways you can live your purpose, if you read the book The Buddha's Brain, one of our favorite books, it talks about it's a philosophical approach to our subconscious programs, actually. So it really combines everything that we just said in this video. It's called The Buddha's Brain. We'll link it in the description below. Does that cover everything?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we could go on and on and on about this, you guys. Like, really, we'll do another video on how you overcome adversity, because this is kind of more the programs that lead us to think that we need to be with adversity, but not less. We want to give you some more tips on how to overcome adversity, and we could really talk about this stuff for so long.
Yeah. And so the whole thing is that with the question, what about friends, is that we said it. We don't think friends are a bad thing, but our whole thing is that we want to show you how much there is more to than just friends. And once you figure out how to find more passion, purpose, and gratitude, it's gonna make you feel so much better, and it's gonna make you live more aligned with who you want to be, and that in turn is going to bring you in the friends that you want, and it's going to weed out all the things that don't serve you anymore.
There's a law of the universe, and one of the 12 laws of the universe is as within, so without. And it's it basically, you know, if in this example, it states that, like, if we want to attract the perfect friend for us, we become the best version of ourselves first, and then we attract the perfect aligning match of friends. Instead, what ends up happening in the regular school system is that we surround ourselves with these people who aren't necessarily working on being the best version of themselves, and so then we just match what they are becoming. Instead, we need to be the magnet that attracts positive influence into our lives.
Straight that was beautiful. That was amazing.
So you guys can join both of our newsletters. Isabelle does the Kids Mindfulness newsletter, and I have a Consciousness Club newsletter. If you just click the links down below, be sure to like this video and subscribe, and I hope you join us for our next video.
Thanks.